Hello everyone, welcome back to Life Stories. My name is Trent, and as usual, we are back with more stories from Reddit/idontworkherelady. So, let's get started. Our first story is titled, Wine Guy Thinks I'm a Manager. This is more of an I do work here story, but I was off the clock, so whatever. Our cast is WG, Wine Guy, me, Meow, co-worker up front, M1 and M2, managers, and G, co-worker that's been out because of an injury. I work at a popular 24/7 convenience store local to the North Midwest and Northeast Coast with a giant red S as our logo. I was scheduled to work later that afternoon from 3 to 10, but stopped by to grab breakfast for me and a friend of mine. Co-worker Meow was working up front. I say to them, "Hey, is G there? I thought I saw his car out back, but I wasn't sure if he was here or not." "Yeah, he's talking to M1 right now, but you can go say hi." "Awesome, I'll go do that." I go walk back and say hey to G and M1 and 2. Get chastised for interrupting their meeting, but we laugh and BS and whatnot. I walk back out to grab my food, and there's a guy waiting by the entrance to the sales floor. WG says, "Hey, I can see y'all are busy, so I'm gonna make this quick. I've got a wine delivery, and this, etc., etc." Sorry man, I'm not the manager, but I'm sure she'll be out shortly." "Oh, I'm so sorry." She, Meow, had just called back here, and you walked out, so I just assumed. No, you're fine, man. I do work here, but I'm off the clock right now. Just picking up some food and stopped by to say hi." "Oh, alright. Sorry to bother you." We wound up having more conversation while I was waiting for my food. He was afraid he was going to miss an interview he had later that afternoon. I advised him to just take the company vehicle because it shows that he's employed and makes him look more desirable to potential employers. We laughed and joked, and I went on my way. Later that night, while I was actually working, I see M2 talking to the same delivery guy. "Hey man, how'd your interview go?" WG says, "Hey, look at you, you do work here." "I wound up getting the job, so I think it went well, thanks to your advice." "Awesome, man, I'm happy for you. You gotta come back and let me know how it goes." "Well, you're here working, so I'm sure I'll see you around." We chit-chatted a bit more, and he went on his way. Sorry there were no Karens or anything hostile, but I just thought it was funny. You know what? I kind of enjoyed that one. No Karens. Kind of a nice change of pace. Moving on, our next story is titled, As I've told you before, I don't work here. I work for a non-profit organization. We own an office building and rent office spaces out to other non-profits at a very cheap rate. Though we currently have one for-profit tenant, the Taxman. The offices have been a little crowded as we have increased staff size this past year, so how the building is set up, everyone entering has to come directly through my office to get anywhere else in the building. Rather annoying for me, but oh well. It's rather obvious upon entering my office which organization I work for. I have signs and tons of paraphernalia pertaining to my organization. Well, the Taxman is rarely in his office, as this is his secondary location. So typically, when his clients come in and see he's not there, they'll simply ask me to place a piece of paper on his desk for them or some similar small task. This one client of the Taxman, entitled Cow, comes in rather often, but being the entitled cow she is, she speaks down to me and gives me many tasks to do. For example, she once came in, discovered the Taxman wasn't in his office, and started rambling off to me. "I need you to give this to the Taxman. Tell him that I didn't know what to put in XX section. And I have another question about XX, so I need you to have him call me immediately." I politely responded, "Ma'am, I don't work for the Taxman. I work for the non-profit organization which owns this building. But if you would like to write down your notes for him, I'd be happy to place the message on his desk for you." "What an incompetent employee you are," she stated as she stormed off. This began happening rather frequently, at least every other week. Each time I would remind her that I did not work for the Taxman, and I would often note that I have no idea what she's talking about. Each time she would insult me and leave. The last time she came in, about 2 weeks ago, she walked right up to me and said, "What do you even do all day? Watch Netflix? Your job is boring." I politely as possible said, "No ma'am, I run a youth volunteer program, run a countrywide volunteer center, do all the accounting for the organization, serve as a property manager," and listed off all my very extensive job descriptions to her. She laughed and said, "Yeah, right, my daughter's about your age and she just sits at a desk all day watching Netflix. You can tell your boss whatever you want, but I know you don't do anything." What an entitled cow, right? Well, today, about 30 minutes ago, guess who waltzes into my office? That's right, the oh-so-lovely entitled cow. I told her that the tax man is in, but he's currently meeting with someone else, and she could go knock to let him know she's there. She stared at me for a moment, before finally leaving my office and walking back to the tax man's. 5 minutes later, she walked back into my office and said, "It sounds like he's meeting with somebody." "Yes, ma'am, that's what I just told you." "Well, I'm not knocking and letting him know I'm here. You're his receptionist. That's your job." "No, ma'am, I'm not his receptionist, as I have told you many times before. I do not work for his company. You can either wait back there until his meeting is over, or you can knock and let him know you're here. Either way, it doesn't affect me." "Are you kidding me? I'm here for a meeting with him, which was supposed to start 5 minutes ago." I ignored her, and she walked out, only to pop her head in 2 seconds later and say, "Seriously, I'm not knocking." I said, "Okay," and she walked back to his office to wait. It's a small building, and I can hear everything that happens in the hallways, so I can currently hear her sitting outside of his office mumbling, "Seriously, taxman? Finish your meeting. You're supposed to meet with me. Frick your incompetent receptionist." Frick me, the incompetent receptionist of the taxman who just watches Netflix all day, right? I have a feeling that this could be one of those stories that we get a sequel to down the line. And you know what? I'm here for it. And moving on, our next story is titled, "I'm Not Your Cab." This is sort of an I Don't Work Here Lady story. Some backstory on me and my dog. My dog loves people and likes most dogs, but he tends to dislike dogs who get aggressive with him, and also dislikes dogs of the same breed as those who've gotten aggressive with him. In my old neighborhood, a neighbor had a Doberman that would bark and lunge at him if we got close. So now he does not like Dobermans. Early one Sunday evening, I was returning home after visiting a friend. My dog was in the car with me. I just parked around the corner next to a park. I was looking forward to walking my dog in the park and going home after a long drive. I saw a Doberman named Archie run across the street in front of us into the park. I see his owner, a frail old woman, crossing the street as well. But she's not focused on her dog, she's headed towards my car. I hit the door lock button. The last thing I need is Archie jumping in with her or my dog jumping out. She tries to open the door and starts saying, "Open the door," and keeps pulling on the handle. I tell her I'm not a cab, but she ignores me and continues. I tell her I'll have to call the cops if she continues. She does not react to me in any way, just keeps trying to get into my car. She's also paying no mind to her dog, who's running free in the park. She's too old and frail to give him any exercise, and just shuffles along with him when she walks him. I call the cops and tell them the situation. She seems like she's got Alzheimer's, or she's mixing her meds and her dog is running free. But I make it clear he's not hurting anyone. She wanders over to some neighbors who are out in the park. They're already trying to round up her dog, without much success. From a later conversation with one of those neighbors, I found out they took her home, and she didn't even know it was her house. Eventually, the dog was rounded up and brought home as well. Then, the cops showed up. I told them I called, explained the above, and told them they should do a wellness check on her. I mentioned to a neighbor that a man used to live here. He also had a Doberman named Rocky. A few months ago, I was told by another neighbor that Rocky had died, which I found strange, since he wasn't old and seemed in good health last I saw him. Well, the neighbor in the park said the man was her husband, and Rocky didn't die. The old lady poisoned him, and the husband left her. I don't know how accurate the gossip is. I feel sorry for Archie. He's young and strong and wants to run, but he sits in the house and looks out the window and barks at everyone in the park. Oh, poor dog. It's a shame when old people start to lose their sense of self, and I can only hope that Archie finds a better home down the line. Same goes for the old lady. Just kinda goes to show that both people and animals need to be taken care of in equal measure, huh? And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is about all the time we have. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Life Stories. My name is Trent. As per usual, we're going to run the gamut. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button, do whatever you need to do to make sure that all the Reddit content we've got cooking up on our end is going to come your way. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys later.